Small business contracting is getting easier and easier because the number of small businesses doing work with the federal government has continued to decrease since 2009. Here are some of the areas where small businesses have no longer servicing the government, and we've gone from 120,000 to 65,000, and the amount of money being spent with small businesses continues to rise from 2009 to now in 2023, a whopping $178 billion. And so the reason why we're on this video today to talk about our conference and our upcoming summit in Miami, November 14th and 15th, and I want to introduce you to the buyers of the conference. I want to introduce you to those persons that are making the decisions. So today, what I want to do is I want to look here at my agenda, look at the schedule. We went over some of the people before, but I want to actually have pull up on the screen so you can see who are these persons that are speaking at the conference and learn a little bit more about them so that you can determine whether or not this makes sense for you. Clearly, this is not for everyone. This is really for those persons who really want to change their life and make a significant impact on their business over the next 12 to 18 months. If that's not you, please feel free to tune out of this video. So here we are. Again, going through our conference schedule happening in Miami, November 14th and 15th. We're also going to review, right, in addition to the persons and what they do, we want to get into, right, what are some of the areas where the government's actually spending money. And so what does that look like, right? So, because again, if they're not spending money in the areas in which you are providing services or products, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's look at on the screen. We're going to talk about some of these codes and what they look like. So for example, with HHS, the biggest pot of money that they're spending here is under the next codes 541512. And in fact, let me go ahead and zoom in. It looks a little bit unclear. All right, I think that's easier for people. So again, we'll look at some of the top codes being spent by HHS, one of our key participants in this particular event. We've got a lot of NAICS codes in computer and IT products, but then we've got some professional services. We've got some construction in here, scientific and technical consulting services as well, R&D, facility support services, which include things like janitorial. When we look at NASA, we look at areas here where they're spending R&D as well, engineering services, facility support services, computer, security guards, wireless telecommunications, and then again, some more tech services like 541, 512, 541, 513, and we get into engineering and computer design, NRC, right, where they're spending money at. And this is important because, like I said, when we are looking at, Eric, how do I determine which conference, which event should I be participating in, which event should I be spending my time in and spending my money and my resources, you want to go where there are active buyers who are buying the stuff that you provide. So this is why I want to talk to you about who are the people attending and get you and just having an understanding, right? Because when you understand, like the Department of State, and you're looking at, okay, are you in administrative management and general management consulting, right? This is construction. Are you in computer facilities management services, office services, workers, employees, staffing, things like that? Do you even know what these things mean? Electrical contractors, $416 million, right? The VA hospital system, are you a veteran? These are the things that I want everyone that's tuning into this to understand, to know, so that they can make the best informed decision for them. So we want educated consumers here. We don't want you to show up because someone said, I think it's a good idea. We want you to show up because you know that this is something that you must have to happen in your business in order to see some type of movement, some type of results. So again, let's jump in. I'm just gonna go down the list and talk about it. So last time we brought up, heading off our keynote, Jackie Robinson Burnett. Again, presidential appointee, SB Administrator, Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. And when you look at her profile, you can see Jackie comes from a long, extensive experience of working at the SBA. She was a SES back in 2016, 2017. And again, if you go back in our history of what she's done, SES in 2021, and then she goes back all the way. She's Deputy Director of Army Office of Small Business Programs. So you can't only focus on what they are doing now. Let's look at some of the things that she's done in the past and what are some of the other programs that they know about that they can help us with as well. Does that make sense? So if you actually do a little bit digging into what is it that some of the things that the person has done in the past, these are areas where you could talk about. So if you particularly are interested in doing, like, say, for example, when you look up whatever it is that you do, that the Army happens to be one of your offices, well, she was the deputy director of Army Office of Small Programs at the Pentagon, right? And so she did that. She led programs valued at $16 billion and a network of over 200 civilian and military personnel. She was the associate director of small business programs at the U.S. Corps of Engineers. Again, if that's a person that you want to meet or talk to or learn about, Jackie Robinson can speak to that. She worked at the Army for 19 years, deputy associate director of small business, Army Contract Command. Okay, if that's in your Rolodex. So we want to look deeper into the person's past to see other things they've done and areas in which they can help us with. All right. Looking at Donna Bennett, Chief Information Security Officer, Department of State. So again, for those of you who are interested in working with Department of State, for those of you who may be technologists, for those of you who are working on anything related to maybe AI, machine learning, or deep fakes, then I can see why you'd want to talk to Donna Bennett here. She's also worked here, like I said, she was at Commerce for a while. She spent 2 years at Commerce. She was a CISO at FEMA, right? I know a lot of people are thinking about what's going on with FEMA now as it pertains to the hurricane. And then again, here's Senior Information Assurance Officer at Department of Defense for 5 years. So again, many, many different things that you could talk about with her. Shannon Jackson, SES, Office of Small Business at HHS. Again, when we looked at on our screen over here, when we put up HHS, HHS is a monster. HHS, they're a large organization, and knowing what these persons do at these organizations can be very helpful, so that when you are there and you're meeting with them, you have something intelligent to say, to ask, to talk about, right? You want to know what kind of programs they're working on. But again, let's look back into Shannon's past. He's been at that role for 3 years. Before that, he was a deputy director of DoD Office of Small Business Programs for 2 years, acting director of DoD Office of Small Business Programs again for a year. So again, he's worked in the field of DoD Office of Small Business Programs, United States Army Rapid Equipping Force, Foreign Military Sales Program Manager. So lots of things to talk about with Shannon when you see him. And I can tell you personally, last year when I was coming around and I finished getting off stage, he was sitting by himself and nobody was even saying anything to him. So here was an opportunity for you to grab someone with this type of prestige behind his name and talk about foreign military sales. So when people say to me that, well, Eric, this seems like this type of conference or that type of conference, that's why I wanted to make this video today, to dig into the past of our speakers, so you can see, right, that yes, they may be in this current role today, but their history, how they got to that role, their path, their journey, what activities they did led up to that, they have a lot more worldly experience that they can share and help and knowledge to be able to pass along to all of you out here, so that you can be able to take from that something that's worthwhile. All right. But again, just let me put back on, switch the screen back. So again, Foreign Military Sales, Department of Army Systems Coordinator, Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, right? Product Manager for Mortar Systems, right? There's people talking about how do we sell these different programs and products. So it looks like he was in that area beforehand, right? But it just takes you to go in and do a little bit of research. Let's see who we have up here next. Lori Sells, Civility Management Solutions. Lori's company, again, just digging into her past, she's been at Civility Management for the last 12 years and 3 months. Before that, the Director of Veterans Ministry, let's see, Project Manager. Let's go back to some of her past experiences. All right, senior leadership development consultant at NASA headquarters, right? So she serves as program manager, official mentoring program at NASA headquarters, eMERGE. All right, she interviewed all the pilot program participants, assessed the program for civilian servants, right? Again, go back into the people's past, project manager, NWS Systems, where she contracted overseeing contractor support, presidential appointee, director of National Cancer Institute, all aspects of administration, right? So again, I can tell you, knowing Lori and knowing because she's been on my podcast, that her company's revenues exceeded $10 million. 30% of her revenues are generated doing event planning services. So she can talk a lot about what that looks like. And Lori will be giving our invocation at the conference as well. But she'll be in the audience just perusing and being able to have access to someone like that, her knowledge and her experience, 12 years in this game, building a company that's exceeded 8 figures in revenue. I think that's a huge accomplishment of somebody to want to meet. Let's look at Teresa Moon coming up. And so Teresa Moon actually works at a company called Parabolis. Parabolis, right, that particular organization, what they do is they actually do government contract finance. So look at Parabolis, they do government contract finance, and they're an organization that helps companies like yours when you are stuck trying to finance this next project. They're the ones that get you the money. I've made some videos in the past and I talked about, people say, well, Eric, my challenge is if I win a contract, how am I going to pay for it? Well, Teresa Moon at Parabolis can tell you exactly what that looks like. How does that work? Her company Parabolis, the owners of the company, the founders, were actually small businesses that turned large, and then they saw the gap in the marketplace for providing finance solutions to other small businesses. And so then they went out and they created a company to go out and help solve that issue. So again, being able to talk about how do you finance your project? What does that look like? What kind of credit do I have to have? What kind of history do I need to have? What type of documents? All of those things, right, that you're questioning, you're sitting back and you're trying to figure out by yourself and you're trying to solve on your own, you can easily solve by meeting Teresa and having a conversation with her. And she's super friendly, super easy to talk to. In fact, since she started working at this company, she's been a big supporter of us at GovCon Giants and what I do in my work. She's invited me to a ton of events. And so I thought so highly of her that I'm actually making her the MC for our conference. So that should tell you how highly I think of her, of actually putting her as the MC for the first part of the conference. And so definitely, I love the work she's doing. She's helped some of my students scale their organizations using their process, their products. And so definitely happy to be able to have Teresa there on my side. Natalie Colvin, right, when we look at, again, I brought up earlier NASA and what they're spending. Natalie works small business specialist, Office of Small Business Programs at NASA Kennedy Space Center. So we brought up the type of things that NASA's doing. NASA also has a lot of challenges, meaning they're offering prizes and other ways that small business can participate without bidding on contracts. They offer things like SBIRs, STTRs, which are research grants. They offer different types of programs to support NASA that's non-traditional contracting. And so being able to meet Natalie in person and talk to her about that and what opportunities exist, this is something that when we go back to the big screen over here and we look at how much money is NASA spending in some of these areas, you'll be surprised because NASA was one of the first people to give me a major contract cutting the actual grass at the Patrick Air Force Base. So they were right over at Space Force. They're not called Space Force Base, but at the time it was called Patrick Air Force Base. So again, these organizations, they're coming here because they want to help and they want to work with you that's sitting out here that are listening to this. They're wanting to meet you. They're coming here because they feel that they're going to meet the next Mike Cantavi, the next Laseth Velez. They're going to meet the next set of small businesses who are going to go from small to mid to large. And so they're looking for that because they need your help, they need your support. All right, Ben Amabo. So Ben is a special one. And again, Ben, he comes out of IBM. He's a industrial system engineer. He sits on the board of Institute of Industrial Engineers. He sits on the board of Operations Science Institute. He works now for a company called Sonotype, which develops open source software and for this DevSecOps tools. He also sits on the board of National Society of Professional Engineers, and he was the former global chief technology officer over at IBM. And so again, having someone of his caliber, his prestige, being at the event, talking about what does it look like to work for a Fortune 50 company, and especially in the field of technology officer, what is he seeing? I'm having numerous calls with Ben about creating solutions for some of the nation's toughest problems, but he's gonna be there, accessible, available to people to find out what does it take to work with some of these groups. I can tell you, Ben is a very generous person of his time. He's got a very warm spirit, and like I said, I've known him now for probably 3 to 4 months, and I can tell you as we've literally been on the calls probably once or at least twice a week since that time, and he really does want to. We want to see create programs that can help you guys thrive and succeed. And so, they're working on solutions, but they need small businesses to actually implement and execute on some of these solutions that they're creating. And again, that's across the board. It's not just tech. I know that tech comes to mind, but it's all types of solutions like, for example, logistics. We're looking at supply chain and how do we get this new technology in the hands of the American people? How do we implement and execute getting new devices, physical hardware devices, and getting those implemented into some of the old outstanding systems that we're using across the country? And so that's going to take everyday people to do it. And so I want to say that because there's opportunities for all of us out here. But if you're not in a room, you're not going to learn about the stuff and you're not going to hear about it. So I always encourage people to be in the room. All right. Mr. Dominic Forte, Associate Director of Florida Institute for National Security, FINS at the University of Florida, a professor at the University of Florida, Associate Director for Institute of National Security at the University of Florida. And so again, came from Associate Assistant Professor at University of Connecticut, Electronics Engineer at the National Institute of Health, right? So he's working on a bunch of research projects with the University of Florida. They've got a lot of funding from different organizations on some of the technologies that are coming out of Florida. These technologies can help solve some of the national defense issues that we have, and so he's going to be talking about that. But one of the things that's really cool that they're working on in terms of these technologies that was mentioned to me was a lot of the technologies that are coming out of the universities, right? Depending upon what you're doing. So again, I don't know who's listening to this, but depending upon the type of funding you're chasing or contract you're chasing or opportunity, a lot of it has to do with research and development and some of the tech stuff as well. You need university partners. And so they have been, the University of Florida, which happens to be my alumni, Go Gators, they've been great partners with us. They're going to be promoting our conference and event because, again, we're going to be taking some of their technologies and some of the things that they've done in the labs and then bringing them out and making them publicly available and making them commercially viable solutions. So there's just so many ways, right, when we start pulling back the layers of how you can leverage these people. And the point of today's video is just to give you ideas so that you can start to think about, right, what does that look like for you and your organization? My main man, Mr. Travis Mack. So again, Travis Mack, Chairman Salex, Chairman, CEO of Vallejo, and Greenwood Self-Storage Fund. Like I said, he's going to be talking about mergers and acquisitions. He has been successfully scaled his company right? And again, we have this on here, but essentially went from 0 to 800 employees with his first company, and he's done several acquisitions, and he's going to be talking about how to grow your business through acquisitions. Right now, I think he's got over 1,200 employees over at Salex, and then with his Vallejo Networks group, they've been one of the fastest growing MSSPs in the country. So we're going to talk about what that looks like, because again, he first started off selling right to the government, and then he spun out a company, Vallejo, from within his organization, and now they acquire other small businesses that sell directly to small businesses. So now he's doing B2B on the second company. And so what does that look like? How do you do that, right? He can tell you how he successfully grew a B2G company, but now he can tell you how he's doing acquisitions and that strategy on a B2B organization as well. What's cool about this is, again, I'm a lot like the people sitting here. And I know you may think that I'm not, but I am, because not too long ago, I was a regular guy doing construction projects. And now I'm sitting here talking to you about doing mergers and acquisitions. And why is that? How is that possible? Because I'm now, right, sitting aside with people who regularly do this. And so when you start sitting next to these people and you start spending more and more time with them, they make these things that once seemed impossible feel that very possible, because they can introduce you to their networks, their connections, and things like that. In fact, I want to show you something that someone sent to me today. Let me pull it up. I want to show you this because someone literally sent this to me today, and we're going to bring him on the show to talk about it. Give me 1 second. And I'm going to show you how being around the different types of people can help. So I got this email today from Tony, and he says that, Eric, hey, we landed a 200 tire recycling contract for $238,000. After I talked to Todd, I did some thinking about what else I could offer in the tire field. I thought tires need to be recycled and wound up finding a state contract to clean up tires. Ironically, this posted a few weeks after the conference. We could do a live session. Let's set it up. So now, Tony sells tires. And what happened? He talked to one of my friends who are entrepreneurs who are very successful, and they asked him to think about what else he can offer in the tire field besides just selling the tires. And so when he thought about it, he said, oh, I could actually help recycle the tires. And now just being around people who've built up $100 million company, 1,200 employees, right? Acquisitions. Don't you think they have some wisdom to impart upon you? Don't you think there's something that you can learn from them, something that you can gain from them? You don't think, right, that it's worth spending $400 to sit down with a person who spent 20 years growing a company to 1,000 people, building an organization to $100 million, and then doing acquisitions in the hundreds of millions of dollars. You don't think it's worth spending $400 to sit down and have a conversation with that person about what it is that you're doing, what are you doing wrong, what could you do differently, regardless of the industry. And so Tony, having had that conversation with one of our friends, literally went back, thought about on what he did, and he says, you know what? Let me think about it. And then he landed a contract for $238,000 just with having a different frame of thinking. So much that we do in this world, right, as entrepreneurs and business people, involves thinking. And it involves how do we think about some of the problems and the challenges that we're dealing with. And a lot of times, the people that are closest to us don't have that answer. And so that's why you've got to be in a room with people that are thinking differently or have thought differently, right, about some of the challenges that they face with, and you can have conversations with them, right, candid conversations, to just be transparent. Look, Tony didn't try to say, hey, I sell tires, but I want to sell IT. He goes, I sell tires. And the guy's like, okay, well, what other things in the tire field can you sell? And he's like, I never thought about that. So even if you just take that piece of free game that I just imparted upon you, right? If you sell, I don't know, whatever it is, phone cases or phones or something like that, or light bulbs, what other types of ways can you sell the light bulbs? And so that literally light bulb moment um, came to him, and he was able to parlay that into a contract. So again, just being around these types of individuals is going to be helpful, in my opinion, for different ways in which you can think about it. Susan Mitchell, my girl Susan, again, President, CEO, established scope executive, STEM-based founder, entrepreneur, right? Passionate about propelling precision health and growing tomorrow's biotech company. Susan, um, look, she's the one that, again, has the contract with NASA, managing their STEM program, right? She's now doing Guardians of Honor. She's been in business for 21 years. But before that, you can see where she worked at, different organizations. Rolls-Royce, by the way, is a car company, but Rolls-Royce is a big-time defense contractor business as well. A lot of people don't know that. But Susan has done tons of work with NIH, HHS, Health and Human Services. She provides full-time FTE personnel there. And now she's essentially, she could retire, but instead of retiring, she wants to now solve some of the health-related issues as it pertains to minority people. And so that's why she formed a biotech company, Authority Bioservices. And now she is, and again, I'll let you read it for yourself. I'll make sure you see it big. She's got a team of doctors and scientists building a world in which social and health equity are realized. And so she's looking at that. So imagine just having a conversation with her, for 10 minutes. Could that make a difference in how you think going into the fiscal year 2024-25, right? So, just having someone like that, she'll be leading the panel on main stage. Stacy Martineau, Stacy, government contractor consultant at Diener Associates. Susan is a big proponent of Stacy, Diener and Associates. I hope I'm saying this correctly. That's her accounting firm she's used, and she's been telling us, listen, they are top notch in what they do, and they work with organizations that essentially that they scale and they acquire other businesses, and so they can help. One of the things that I've mentioned in the past, and I don't know how many people have heard me say this, but I'll say it again. One of the lessons that I learned when I built my business was when you're hiring out like accountant, lawyers, bonding companies, things like that, when you're choosing who to hire, you want to hire people who have the network and access to a network that you don't have access to, because you're going to be paying them anyways. So why not, right? If you could choose who's your accountant, if you could choose who's your law firm, why not choose someone that has a network that you can tap into to leverage, to grow, and to scale? And so it's not just about choosing a mom and pop company that's like the cheapest one to give you the best price. I happen to choose, when I chose my bonding guy, the bonding company that I chose was referred to, the accountant that I chose was referred to by my bonding company because he was working with companies. I was doing about $2 million a year. He was working with companies doing 20 and 30 and 40 million a year. And so he can impart his wisdom and knowledge upon me of what he learned working with those companies doing 20, 30, 40 million a year. So now as a $2 million company, I can shoot to 20 million because I know from talking to the accountant, what are they doing differently, right? What kind of relationships they have, what kind of connections they have. And so much of what I do and how I scale and grow my organization is because my frame of thought is different, because I'm associated with people who are working with groups that are further along than I am, or they're where I want to be at. And so that's a really easy hack that everyone on this call listening can do. It's an easy way to hack the system is get a professional services person on your team that's working with companies that are bigger than you, that are doing the things that you would like to do, that are where you want to be at. And so Stacy Martineau, Diener and Associates, they're a CPA firm, they're doing that. And so that's why we bring them to you, because even if you don't have her as your CPA, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm a small business, I do this. right? What are some of the things that you've seen other small businesses done that might feel that has worked for them? Come on. I'm giving y'all free game that you can use everywhere. This is something that, again, one of the things they say is we ask poor questions, we get poor answers. So, right, if you don't ask really good questions, you're not gonna get good answers. So I'm teaching you how should you be talking to them. Don't come up to them and say, I'm a woman, I'm a veteran, I'm a service disabled, I'm a 8A. That's irrelevant to them. Tell them what you do. Tell them where you're trying to go. Tell them where you want to be at. Tell them, hey, I'm a $500,000 company. I'm a staffing organization based out of blah, 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 Maryland. Right? Do you have anybody that's in your portfolio of companies that you help with accounting that's also a staffing firm that's doing, I don't know, $10 million or more? Oh, yeah, we've got a couple of them. Really, what have you seen that they've done that's worked well with them? Oh, so what I saw when they were at $5 million, they went and chased these clients. When they're at $2 million, they chased these types of clients. And then when they got to 10 million, they chased this portfolio of clients because at $2 million, they can only support this. At 5, they can support that. At 10, they can support that. This is a 5-minute conversation. And she's going to know this off the top of her head because she's been doing this for so long. Right? Let me see. Stacy's been there, look, 17 years. 17 years. All right. Next person. Megan Lehman. Same thing. Megan, she works for Player Marza. Player Marza is one of the top law firms in the country with government contracting specifically. All right. And so what is it that you should be worried about? What should you be thinking about? What are some of the companies that she's working with doing right? What are some of the things that she's working with doing wrong? So if you don't go up to her and say, hey, Megan, I'm looking at this quote, right? Or Stacy, hey, we provide transportation services, facility management services in GovCon space, right? Hey, okay. What is it that you've seen, some of the areas where some of your more successful clients are doing? What are some of the things that you think I should be doing? These are valid questions, right? And they can tell you. I can't tell you the number of times I've called Megan and asked them for help on some issues that we were dealing with. And I asked them, what did they do in the past with certain clients and how did it work out? And so any one of us can do that. They have a large law firm, and her specialty happens to be government contracts and small business program compliance. But their law firm does M&A, right? The guy who does M&A, his name is Cy, and Cy is Megan's like partner in crime, because whenever I get with Megan, I get with Cy, but he does M&A, mergers and acquisitions in the GovCon space at Player Marza. And he's very down to earth and cool to talk to, you know? So I just want to let people know that how do you leverage these folks? How do you leverage these people? Jane Moran, right? Jane Moran actually is the one who brought me John. He brought me Matt from Beast Code. And so Jane, who is the president of Capital Integration, which is also a top lobbyist, right? Gene, as a lobbyist, has invited me into private events with companies and organizations doing $20+ million and had me in the events. I didn't pay any money. And he's introduced me to these groups and put me in these rooms that I would never be in otherwise. And because he thought that I had something of value to offer to some of these groups of people. And so these organizations that we met with were all essentially supporting these very complex defense programs. And so for me, again, having a lobbyist And I personally never met any lobbyists before. Having someone that explains what lobbying really means and what does that mean in terms of the life cycle of getting contracts, having someone talk about what a success means on different programs that are not traditionally what we all see in construction, IT, things like that. So again, he's the one facilitating the submarine program. For him to be able to get companies like General Dynamics to our event, I think it speaks volumes about who he is and the type of relationships he has in the industry, and also the type of pull and connectivity he has. And so, having someone who's been servicing this industry for 2 decades, that goes a long ways. And having someone of his stature, he's introduced me to people that are providing and manufacturing, a lot of the what do you call it? Like I don't want to like some of the weapons and some of the like bullets and ammunition and things like that. I mean, those are kind of people that I never knew those people personally, but because of Gene's relationships connections, he's able to help connect me to some of those individuals as well. And so, again, if you have the chance to grab some of these people to the side and talk to them, right, you'll find out right away that they can change the trajectory of your business. So again, Jane introduced me to John of the Marine Merchant Association and Matt Zimmerman of Beast Code, which again, this organization here is supporting our submarine program. And so having them on board, talking about, look, we started doing digital tools for design and software. And so now being able to, and look at this, this is him reposting on his site, right? Talking about what they're doing with complex defense programs. It's just, for me, it's like a proud dad moment that I have the opportunity to be able to host some of these excellent people, and also to be able to bring them to you, right? And let you meet them, right? Because again, when you look at someone like a Matt, this is a young guy, right? And but right now, the type of work that they're doing, if you look back into his history, right? Applied Research Associates, led a group of engineers, developed top-notch naval applications using framework and modeling, simulation engine. They're now working and supporting the government, right? And so again, I want you, look, I learned CAD when I was in school. I don't know how many other people learned CAD, right? But now they're supporting the government and helping them in many ways. And so he's going to be there. You'll be able a chance to talk to him. So, like I said, I wanted to let people see, know, understand, right? Have a feel for the type of people that are going to be there, asking some of the questions that that you want to be able to ask and get answered, because I think it's important for us to not see ourselves as just the I'm a solopreneur, I'm a mom and pop company, I'm just a woman-owned small business, don't put yourself in a box like that. I need for you to expand your mind, expand your thinking, because the opportunities out here are expansive. And while, yes, you may start small, you may start slow, having high-level conversations can quickly transform your thinking and allowing you to figure out and find ways in which you can take on bigger projects, more complex projects, put together teams strategically. You probably already know a lot of people that you need, but you're just not thinking about how you can work with them, right? And so, again, I didn't want to make this a long video, so I'm gonna kind of quickly go through some of the other remaining speakers, unfortunately, and it'll be a disservice to them that I won't spend as much time on them. But Laylee Petrie, Diversity Director at Belfort Beatty Construction. I know Laylee personally. She said to me that they have opportunities for businesses in the DC area in construction, every single field. They need subcontractors in every single discipline. All right. So if you are in the DMV area, Balfour Beatty's looking for subcontractors. They've got some big projects I know of that they're working with some of the federal agencies, and so they need subcontractors in everything, everything, right? And so she's coming out and she's going to be talking about working with large businesses. Uh, Lisa Long, Small Business Compliance Manager. She works over at, again, she worked at Bechtel, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. Now she's over at RTX, which again is another multi-billion-dollar company. She's going to be talking about what kind of things that they're doing and what do they need and how can you come and support RTX. Again, she's sitting on our large business panel. Mike White is sitting on the panel with discussing how to work with tribal organizations. Very cool guy, a man of strong religious faith, and he's leading a $100 million firm that does IT, they do construction, they do facility support, they do professional services. And so Mike and I, I've known him now for the last 4 or 5 years, and we talk regularly, and he's always there to help. And so for anyone who's looking at, this is how I literally, when I was dead broke, and I got back into construction, being in a debt, it was through working with a tribal company. And so that's why I'm such a fan of working with tribal organizations, because even as a subcontractor, right, I was able to do a $5 million contract without bonding, without capital, through the relationship that I had with one of these tribal organizations. So that's why when you hear me talk about working with these tribes, like Mike and like Amo from Kaiva, it's that when I say you don't need a certification, it's because I can leverage their certifications and their past performance and history and go out and identify projects and bring it to the table. And so those are the kind of things that I can do, that I like to do, is I partner with groups like this, who again, I think Kaiva right now is $50, $75 million annual revenues. But again, they're working across multiple different disciplines. And so, as I say, they also have Tribal 8A and Hub Zone. They've got, the Indian service buy. And so, like all these things, there's no reason for me to go out and do it, right? I don't have to, because why? Look, they're already doing it. And as you can see, these people are sharing on their public profiles about participating at our event. So they're just as happy to be there. They're proud to be there. Amo's a great guy. I can tell you he has supported us in so many ways. In fact, with our consulting company, Alchemy, and their organization, we were working on a major sole source contract with them. But I truly believe in working with tribes because they are the ones that allow us to do things that we otherwise don't have the capacity to do. But they still are small businesses. So if you have something, right, Q, Juliet, anybody like that, if you've got a project where that could potentially be a sole source opportunity, that's bigger than what you have the capacity to do, you can talk with someone like Amo's company, you can talk with someone like Mike White's company, and then bring them in, and then they can essentially help you put together what it is that you need in order to go after that $6-7 million project. That's what I did. That's how I was able to grow and scale my business. I did not grow linearly. I think a lot of times as small businesses, we're all trying to go like linear, just like this, and this is why we struggle as minorities. It's because we're always trying to grow linearly. And so if you have the ability, and that's why if you're listening to my theme and the people that I'm bringing people that you can leverage to scale, so you can start going like up and up and up and up, right? So what does that mean? You got to take a little bit of leap of faith. You got to jump out there. So now, okay, working with Kaiva, working with Balfour Beatty, working with Punyepa, working with RTX. These are groups and organizations that are going to take you from where you're at to doubling your revenues, to tripling your revenues. So I just want to show you that because I don't think that a lot of times we see ourselves in that light. John Cook, again, John Cook is my guy. John Cook, first company to sponsor us last year. Same thing this year. The very first person to step in and says, I'm sponsoring, I'm down, I'm in. Why? John wants to work with you guys. He wants to work with everybody on this call. He wants to work with everybody that's listening to this. His organization works with multiple tribes, and with multiple tribes, they can bring you a diversity of experiences depending upon whatever it is, the opportunity that you would like to accomplish. So again, whereas Mike and Emil, their organizations, they have specific things that they go after. John Cook's team over at SGA, they are leveraging dozens of tribes to be able to make sure that whatever the opportunity is, let's say you're going after an advertising contract, or maybe you're going after a securities contract, we're going to find you the best tribal partner to take to the table. So, and by the way, keep putting your questions. I'm going to answer your questions momentarily when I wrap this up. So they're going to find you the best partners to bring to the table for whatever the opportunity that you want to meet. So John is a key stakeholder in this because he essentially is the one that facilitates all these high-level conversations with these organizations that are doing 50 plus million up to literally $2-3 billion a year. And John, I mean, I'm telling you, since I've known the guy now for about 2 years, he's come on my show and he talks about winning these $100 million sole source contracts. I've never met another human being that talks so candidly about winning $100+ million sole sources than John. So look, learn from these people, leverage these people, work with these people. I see my man Lennox on here. Lennox knows. I've taken Lennox around and walked him around and introduced him to some of these folks. These people are the real deal. Like, this is what they do. Again, John worked at Punepa. He was the president for them for 4 years. He worked at VT Group, where he's the president of their enterprise IT for 9 years. If you look up VT Group and you see what they're doing, these are major, major, major players, right? Vu Nugent. Vu is the CISO for Department of Justice. Again, looking into what it is that they're doing and how they're doing it. Again, National Security Institute, advisory board member for George Mason University. He's worked at Department of Justice. He's worked at Department of Homeland Security. So again, a lot of folks are in the tech space and they're trying to figure out what it is, how do you work with these people. I'm going to have them there. They're talking about the opportunities. They're talking about the needs. So we want to make sure that on that second day where we have matchmaking, that you're sitting in front of one of or two of these people, or all of the ones that you want to sit in front of and have a high level conversation. That's what I'm about. That's what I like to do for folks, because it's not enough for me to just have you sit back and listen to them and be like, oh yeah, that's very interesting. We're going to give you the information, but I want you to meet them. I want you to shake their hands. I want you to, have a croissant with them, have a cafecito with them, and be able to build a real relationship that beyond the conference you can take with you wherever you go. So I did want to say that, and we're going to wrap it up with a couple last people. Tracy Manning, who is, again, Tracy, she works at the MITRE Corporation, $2 billion company. She's our senior principal, software architect, and researcher at MITRE. And so she's literally talks about AI. She talks about Advanced Software Innovation Center. She is interested in solving biggest, riskiest, and most strategic challenges faced by the U.S. government. So Tracy is on a lot of calls, DevSecOps, and so she's out here every day championing how do we make government better, how do we make our systems better, how do we work together collectively to be able to thwart cyber attacks, cyber hacks, any type of attacks on our critical infrastructure. So that, again, that's on the Technology Summit side. Sean Kingsbury, SAIC. Again, when you look at what these people are talking about doing, right? So again, he's at the Cybersecurity Summit discussing AI from the level of SAIC, right? He's gonna be coming out here talking to you. Again, what are the big companies doing? What are they doing? Vice President of Cybersecurity at SAIC. What are some of the initiatives that the larger organizations are doing, and what does that look like for you? What does that mean to you guys? And so, again, no reason to not feel as though having a conversation with someone, right? What does that look like? And so that you can essentially say, okay, SAIC, where are some of the areas that you are having challenges with that maybe a small business like me can help tackle, right? What are some of the areas that you have needs? Or you can do some of that research before you meet them and come to them. And so we'll wrap it up. Patrice Arnold, Cybersecurity Advisor, again, over at the Department of State. Thomas Bill, Supply Chain. And so he's part of the Technology Summit, right? They're working on how to solve the supply chain issues. I think a lot of times right now, we all see what's happening with the strike and the strike that's happening at the ports. And so that's supply chain, right? So if the ports shut down, right now they're doing all the strikes, and we can't get stuff in or out, that messes with our supply chain for goods, for services, right? For food, things like that. So restaurants don't have the foods they need. Some of the stores don't have the products they need. And so that's all supply chain. So again, I want to share that with you and so that you can have it. Now, someone asked a question about what's the cost of the conference. By the way, we're taking questions now, and we'll go ahead and ask this. Let's see. So someone said, let's see. Mr. Thomas, I've been watching for 2 years. I've won 3 contracts. I'm a service disabled veteran, and now watching your old videos because I'm interested in pivoting into the construction industry. Nice. Okay. Juliet says they network on the floor with attendees and sessions. By the way, hit the like button, please, everyone watching. Greetings, Mrs. Parker. The GCG Summit is very exciting. I think I might be there. Love it. Starting out in government contracts, drug chemistry, drugs fair. I'm very excited. Yes, love it. How can I be a vendor? I build a back-end systems on ClickUp. It helps small client owners. Yeah, so if you want to be a vendor, we still have some exhibitor booths left. So exhibitor booths are, I believe, $1,500 for exhibitor booth. And right on our website, you can go in, exhibitor information. It takes you to a form. You fill out the form, and they'll send you information on what you need to get an exhibitor booth. So we do have, I think, about 10 exhibitor booths left. So if you're interested in getting an exhibitor booth, then that's what you should do. All right, cost of the event. So right now, the event price, let me do it up. I'll pull up on the website so I can show you. I'm on a big screen. In fact, here, let me drop that in the chat for everyone as well. All right, so there's essentially when you look at the ticket prices, so the largest ticket price we have is titanium, which is $940. That includes everything. So it includes the yacht mixer, it includes VIP night and a general ticket administration. And so on the yacht mixer is where all of our speakers, our sponsors, all of the people, you'll be able to chance to talk with them in a private setting outside of the conference. And then the same thing on the VIP night. There's the evening before the event where it'll be a chance to talk to them without being in the room with 500 other people. So because as you know, on conference day, it's really hard to talk to people because once people get off stage, everyone wants to meet them and speak with them. So we're creating a couple of extra additional opportunities for you to speak with them in private and talk to them about what you do. And so for that, that's why we have the yacht mixer and then we have the VIP night. But general administration is just $400 for a general administration ticket, and that gets you the full day of the conference on the 14th, the half day on the 15th, the matchmaking event, and then also on the 15th, we're having a grand finale soiree. We haven't decided where it's going to be at, but last year we had it at a rooftop in Brickell, and so it was amazing because it was a great place for seating and pictures, and we literally shut down this place in Brickell. It was beautiful, where we took a bunch of pictures out. I'll see if I can find it for you. And so that's the general admission price for the conference ticket. Okay, all right. Anybody else with questions? Anybody else with questions? No? All right. Well, listen. Like I said, I just want to come on and talk about some of the speakers, some opportunities out here. This is what our last year. This is where, again, this is where the event we close out. Last year's event. This is where we close it out at. Oh, look who's that! My man Linux, Simone. So that's the Atlanta crew from Blacks in Technology. But yeah, so this is where we had our last year. This is where we had the actual closeout event. So good times, and we had a lot of fun. And so, like I said, we, you know, it was a great way to end up a successful conference. So, what else we have? The people you mentioned on LinkedIn are speaking at an event. How do you approach them about opportunities that are available? So again, that's why we're having this conversation today, is because all the people that are speaking at the event, I mean, everyone, there's a different reason that they're there, and there's different things that you want to talk about. I gave some examples at the beginning of this video of what kind of things you can say to them and ask them, but it just depends, Q, right? You know, I would personally, like you said, I would probably go ahead and be prepared. And so the reason why we're going over this now, where we're about 6 weeks out from the event, is because I want you to know who they are and do a little bit of research about some of the things that you may be interested in working with them on. So I would personally be looking at their organizations to see where you could help and know their programs, and then you could speak to them specifically about their programs. So for example, right, if we talked about like Puniepa here. So for me, what I would do is I go to, like, let's say I want to work with one of the tribes. So you pull up Puniepa's website, and it tells you on their website what they're working on: construction facilities, IT, technology, professional service, security systems, right? So it talks about what they're working on. And so you can go here and find out about some of these programs, and then have some information to bring to them when you have this conversation. And then so when you're talking to, you know, like Mike White here, right? Then you could talk about, hey, Mike, I noticed that you guys worked on these types of projects, da 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 da. This is something I'm very much interested in. This is what I do, and this is how we think we can help support you guys. And he'll tell you straight up, you know, what he needs. But if you just come in and say, hey, do you have something that you need help with? That's probably going to be a little bit of a challenge, because it's really an open-ended question, because I would be surprised if they don't need help with everything. But you just definitely need to know what it is that you do and what you're focusing on. So, all right, cool beans. Well, listen, happy to share, happy to have this information in front of everybody. Again, if you know someone that you think should be attending the conference, if you know someone, a friend, do them a favor, let them know about it. We want them there. If you have any questions, as always, right, on any of this stuff, let me put our information on there for you guys, because, right, so let me put this information on there. You can always send us an email, right? So here it is. Again, our telephone number, you can reach out to us, call us, send us an email, service at GovCon Giants, call us 786-477-0477. If you want to volunteer, if you want to help, if you want to be exhibitor, lots of opportunities available for people out here. So again, we're just trying to connect you with the opportunity, so that for those of you who are serious about wanting to grow and scale in this business, we want to make that pathway a little bit easier. And so we know that that's not always easy to do for people who have typically been disenfranchised. And so what we like to do is try to create opportunities for you to get into the door, be successful, prove that you deserve to be here, and then thrive and excel. And so that's my hope for you. That's my prayer for you. And with that, good night.